I want to talk about this image because I think this is something that all scientists or students in high school should know about. This image represents something called between group variation and within group variation. Before I get into those terms, let's just review normal distribution. This is basically a bell-shaped curve that shows how data values spread out normally or typically in data sets, where a bulk of the data here is going to be near the average, while the extremes have less and less data. Within group variation is data within the group. Okay, but in other words, this is variation within one variable of data. The more spread out the bell curve is for that group of data, the more variation there is. The thinner that bell curve is, the less variation there is in that data. So you can see between our three graphs here that this graph should have the least amount of variation in the data, while this graph has the most variation in the data. Which of these three groups has the most and least within group variation? The dashed lines represent the average for that group of data. And you can see here that the most variation we have is in group 1, while group 2 has the least variation within group data. Now, between group data is between the different groups. These are, again, variations among all of the variables. You can see in our top graph here, there's not a lot of between group variation compared to the bottom graph here, where there is more variation between the groups. This here would be the within group variation. This is just within one group of data. When comparing the three different groups, you can see again, there's a large amount of between group variation and a small amount of between group variation. By comparing these two different values, we can help determine if the variation is due to random chance or some variable. And this is really important when looking at data in scientific experiments.